Chefs of the Future, COF Nation, COF Nation. Welcome. My name is Rich, and you're here because you are part of the Chefs of the Future Nation, and we welcome you. And today, we welcome back returning guest, Freddie, first time in person, on camera, with all the lights, all the setup. Great to have you back, bro. Thank you for coming.
Nice to be here. Glad to be back.
Yo, we definitely took to the knowledge you dropped the last time you was here, and we was dying to get you back here. Josh, you know, what else could be said? You always here, you're a show regular, and you have your base that continues to support you.
Thank you, everyone, and I'm glad to be back.
And as you can see, we have a hot topic to talk about today. Again, special announcement, Chefs of the Future documentary. The documentary. Stick out for that. Look, it's dropping sooner than you think. Both of these guys have seen like clips of it. Just like look. First of all right, you've seen clips of it.
Yep.
You've seen clips of it. So, from what you've seen, like,
I'm so
like
excited.
what?
It's so different to like see it in person, like rather than to like be behind the camera and see it, because it's just a completely different like feeling of watching. Oh my god, just the preview alone. You should get a preview drop.
Ooh, you think so?
Yes, absolutely.
Drop the preview?
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, bet. Done. That's what we're going to do. We're going to drop the preview. Freddie, you got to see the first cut of the documentary.
I think it was beautiful. It was very well written, and I very much appreciated the whole thing. And I'm looking forward for the rest of the world to be able to see it.
And you was in it. No spoilers, though. You was in it. What should people expect?
Honestly, I don't know, but I think that you'd look forward to it if you see it yourself. So,
I've only seen the trailer, and from what I
You're in the trailer.
I'm in the trailer, but from what we've recorded, I think people should expect just realism. Like, this is what it is. This is what kitchen life is about, and everything is just it's real. It's all real.
Absolutely. So, look, keep up for that. And with all that being said, this is the trailer sneak peek. And that was the trailer of the documentary. Again, hot stuff. Check it out. It's dropping sooner than you think. The hype is real. Chefs of the Future, COF Nation. Keep it locked. Now, with all that being said, today we are talking about weed, cannabis, marijuana. However, what's the proper way to say it these days?
THC,
Cannabis,
CBD, any
and
of the above.
More specifically, how it's going to affect the chefs of the future. We're not here to talk about the mindsets of the chefs of the future, but the actual act of being a chef in a world where it's legal to consume and, recreationally deal with cannabis, and how that's going to affect the way we implement it in recipes for the future, and chefs that's already doing that today. So that's what we're here to talk about. And before we get deep into it, right, let's just get our first reactions to this whole topic. So the way I feel about this is I'm completely on board with the implementation of cannabis and marijuana into recipes and into restaurants and hotels, and as long as it's properly labeled and is being vetted to the customers that can consume it recreationally, if you're in that kind of state or what have you, it's perfectly fine. I don't see why not. If there's a market for it and it's legal to do that in your state, then I don't see why it shouldn't be a problem. Now, some people would think of it as a trend. I would think it would be here to stay. You know, it would be just like chicken parm sandwiches, what have you. Like, so that's my overall like, bro. Before we get into too much details, what's your take on it first, Josh? Like,
So I have some history, not with cooking it itself, but like I was in a menu and facilities class and I did a menu on it and like I designed an entire restaurant around it. I made a menu for it. So like this is something that I'm very passionate about when it comes to like cooking with cannabis. There's a lot of very important things that you have to think about as far as like keeping it in a separate kitchen, and do you want to get it imported or do you want to grow it in your kitchen, and lots of like legal issues with that, and then you have like you're worried about some people stealing it and for their own use or their own consumption. So there's definitely a lot to think about. There's a lot of different things that you can do with it, and the uses are endless. They really are.
so you've done a lot of thinking about
Oh
that.
yeah, absolutely.
So you're the perfect person for this conversation.
Oh yeah.
you know, I haven't, gave the thought any real consideration until again it became legal in more states, and it really accelerated the process. The pandemic did of getting marijuana legalized in a lot of states because a lot of states is strapped for cash and everything. And one way they see out is by legalizing marijuana and getting rid of like the petty charges and clearing up, things on that end, and start generating the tax revenue from selling cannabis on a state level. Now, so until that happened, I wasn't paying this conversation any mind.
Right. Yeah.
But now that is being implemented on that end, it gives precedence to this whole thing. But Fred, so how do you feel about just this topic in general, like cooking with marijuana,
I feel like,
implementation of it in restaurants?
I mean, I definitely see that it's something that you could see implemented in restaurants. It's one for, pretty common fact, the safest way to consume it. Not only mentioning, one of the safest things you can consume that would even be considered a drug, but at the end of the day, you see the type of potential it has and all the uses for it. And, I would imagine it being incorporated into the future. But, another thing, that regulation of it's something that's going to be real hard looking into it, because it's just like with alcohol, people get by with fakes all the time. So like even with the legalization of it, people still come by and try. How do you really put a limit to that?
So the THC market, right? I hate to think about the marijuana as THC because when you have like corporate America now creating THC farms and stuff like that, I mean, like marijuana farms rather, what they're doing is they're creating weed that's extremely high in THC. So the people that smoke it become super tolerant to high doses of THC. So you're not creating weed smokers, you're creating THC dependent. So it's a really slippery slope. Anyone who watches the show know I say that shit a lot. It's a real slippery slope when you start getting like corporate driven ideas to approaching the cultivation of weed and marijuana. But outside of that, when they can stay contained on like a family level, a couple person operation where they know exactly the full process of it through and through. And then they have like a contract with a restaurant or a hotel chain, or small, and they supply them with organic marijuana to use in the, as service, as ingredients. So honestly, the way I see it, right, is we're gonna get to a point where we have, dried marijuana in containers, just as we have like oregano
Or basil,
Yeah.
or basil or salt.
or tarragon.
Yeah, exactly. Or we're gonna have it fresh and jarred in the refrigerator. You understand? In a little like caged area or something, something just like they do wine or something. You have your weed fridge,
Yep.
and you would have your items on the menu that you would be able to use it for. Now, is it that crazy of an idea to conceive that being a possibility?
No, no, it has. There are. I feel like again, there's gonna be a lot of rules, especially in the kitchen, about where to keep it in the kitchen, in the restaurant itself. How much of it is going into each dish or um, each bulk item that you're making. Like it's gonna be a very precise thing because you don't want to overdose and you don't want to underdose because then the customers are gonna complain about either being too high or not high enough. And so everything has to be so precise and measured. And not only that, but even when there's so much thought that I put into this. You have cooks that are just cooking the marijuana. You have either like if you're gonna cook or grow it in your restaurant, you have people who are picking it and making sure that they're not using like lots of chemicals and stuff like that because you don't want that in your food. So there's definitely a lot to think about when it comes to it being in the kitchen and being cooked. There's a lot.
Right. So, do you really feel like it's an idea that could be brought to like fruition?
I feel like it's definitely something a lot of people are going to try to make a possibility. It's already something that's become very popularized on social media. It's very much got its own hype and in its own sense it's trending in so many different ways. And you see the potential that it has in the way it can take over the market. Like, there are even food trucks in the city that are strictly edibles. They make thousands in a day. People spend money there and they want to go back. And it's a good experience. And it's like, you can't take away from that fact. And, when there's a will, there's a way. And then people make it happen.
So what that tells me is that there's already an existing system, that they have a way to show it on their menu,
Right.
the specific doses that you're going to get from eating this amount of cake or this amount of bread, and this is your forewarning right here. Let's say it's like 500 milligrams, and this is how much is in this piece of candy or this loaf of bread. So when they cook with it and they serve it to you on however they serve it to you, let's say you get a marijuana infused hot dog bun,
Right.
and now you're eating like a ballpark,
Yeah.
ballpark hot dog with like the caramelized onions, and you're doing your thing, but you're also consuming marijuana. Yeah. Cannibalized onions. Sheesh, bro. It's like, and then you get people like double onions, like
Yeah. Yeah.
double onions, no hot dog,
Yeah.
special prep, extra weed.
I gotta bring my menu in.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, you should have had it with us. Like,
You know, I
right.
wish, dude. I really wish.
But I
Maybe we'll
did tell
have
you
like a
about
part
this
two.
today.
I wanna do a part two. We'll have some.
But I did tell you about this today.
That's
So,
true.
so,
I had time. I should have done it.
so it's like, yo, like I did tell you today. So at work.
We should have some of the viewers ask us questions and then maybe bring up a part two in the future
Mm, about like the.
about whatever other questions they might have or whatever other things they might think about that we're not thinking about right now.
Oh yeah. So look, check this out. Chefs of the future. Make sure you comment. And how do you feel about the marijuana being implemented in restaurants? Would you or oppose the idea? Do you think it's too divisive of a topic to implement into society that abruptly? How do you feel like that's going to affect the younger generations? You know, the ones that's not old enough to consume marijuana, but is still going to test the boundary. Like, what's kind of vetting process you're going to do to the customers? You're going to do ID checks, or you know, how do you feel like that's going to play out? Oh, is marijuana legal to consume recreationally or medically in your state? Comment below. Let us know your thoughts on that, and we'll definitely do a part two, and we'll answer any questions that get sent in to the show or to us personally, either to Fred or to Josh or to myself. But a little background on our like experience, just so people know like where we're coming from with how we feel about like the like implementing food, like implementing marijuana in the food. So it's like, we've all been cooking for years, and we understand what it means to provide a meal worth serving to a guest, and that's always take precedence over any uh, like menu preference we may want to run or any special we think. But at the end of the day, it's about providing something that's worthwhile to the guests.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be what we want to serve personally. So I believe that even when it comes to my preference for marijuana, you understand? It's just like, yeah, I would love to put weed in everything, cook it, everything, but then I won't do it at the compromise of the food. It has to make
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
The cannibalized onions, that makes sense.
Right.
If in that context, in that, but I won't just like
As long as
throw it.
it's not like oh you got the
Yeah,
cannabinized onions. You got like the bun has cannabis in it and the hot dog. Then it gets way too much. Like it has to be a subtle. It has to be something subtle, but still makes sense towards the dish. And still have enough in that item to get you
The feeling
the
you're,
feeling
you're
that you're
seeking.
looking for.
but I was thinking more from like a fundamental standpoint of the establishment. Like it has to be on brand. Like I don't want to see Chick-fil-A like
Right.
in 10 years come and be like, look, now we have like a cannabis menu that you can order off of if you're 21 and sitting at this part of the what. Nah, man, like I don't want that. It can't.
No, because that's when it becomes a fad. Is when it gets into the other like the chain restaurants, even TGI Fridays. If they started putting stuff like that on their menu, it's over.
You think so?
Like, yeah, absolutely. It's a chain restaurant. It's a corporation.
Over for everyone.
And like they have people who specifically look up trends that are trending,
Yeah.
and they will implement it in their menu to get more customers. And once that happens, then it goes to McDonald's, or sometimes McDonald's takes it first, and then it goes to TGI Fridays or Red Lobster or something like that. And it's on the back burner for some restaurants.
So what would
Some of the smaller restaurants, I should say.
so some of the benefits I feel like that would come from it being implemented at one of the major chain restaurants, like let's say like a Subway's, they come out with like a oil infused, a weed infused like vinaigrette for like their sandwiches and stuff like that. It would lower the stigma around like the consumption of weed, and like you were saying, Fred, it is the healthiest way of, you know, in, like consuming weed, right?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, it makes sense. But would it be on brand for Subways?
I mean, it wouldn't be that entirely off because again, they're only adding it to one specific thing on their menu. So like, if they did like, the vinaigrette, and then they did.
I mean, if that's a hit,
it's got to be that all organic.
But you know it's gonna be a hit. You know it's gonna be a hit.
It absolutely.
Everybody they're gonna be like, yo, we go through 100 gallons of that stuff.
Yeah.
We go through 100 gallons of the.
No, it'll definitely be a hit. But as long as like that's the only thing like that they're offering, it's not gonna go away for other restaurants. Like, yeah, they brought it there, but that's to get a certain type of like a newer clientele to them.
So what chain restaurant do you feel like would be the first restaurant to really reach out there and try something like that?
Popeyes.
I mean, okay. See, look. Oh, I appreciate your answer because you understand the marketing and who they target, like their target audience. So, it's not off brand. I could see that. Like, it's not off brand. It's not.
You know what they do? They would.
Little Caesars.
They would put a whole bunch of stoners in a room and be like, "You're high now. What do you want to eat?" And they're gonna say,
White Castle.
McDonald's, White Castle. It's White Castle. Right there, Harold and Kumar, all the way. Like,
yo,
that might be the first one, to be honest.
But not. You know what? They still family owned though, aren't they?
What?
White Castle.
Are they family owned?
Yeah.
I think so.
I feel like I should know something. I should know this. Like.
I'm not
a lot of them are shutting
sure.
down.
Yeah, they closing up shop, but intentionally though. They try to expand too quickly. Or under the wrong like business model, but they tightening up ship and they getting their thing on track.
So, in my opinion, again, the places where like stoners will go out.
I really feel like
eat.
the corner stores, the bodegas,
yeah,
the convenience stores would be the first ones to implement it.
Yeah, but the bodegas would be low key about it, and but they make a move.
But if it's legal, it's legal, right?
Yeah, of course.
They put it in their smoothies or something. in the shakes,
in the chopped cheese.
Yeah.
when he said that about the food truck, like they already have food trucks in New York now, like that was something that kind of like interested me. I was like, maybe there could be some food trucks. Or maybe one food truck that has multiple trucks and like goes around from place to place, and has like multiple locations in New York. But like their menu is strictly weed related items. That could be something I could see happening.
Yeah, then you could do it all. Every item could be some way infused with weed, and you can have just look. This has 5,000 grams of marijuana in this one item. Like, so eat this like slowly.
That's another thing too, is because when you eat it, it
who's
takes
liable?
a lot longer.
But who's liable in that case though? When you're purposefully medicating, right? Because that's what weed is, right? It's a drug. When you're purposefully drugging,
it's just like with an allergy, you got to make someone aware, and if you're aware of those choices and you ask for something,
but even at a bar, they limit you, right?
Yeah.
So
because it's more immediate.
if somebody comes to you twice in a day or three times in a day, like, do you have that limit to be like, look, no, I already served you, 5,000 milligrams of shortcake today. Like,
Yeah, I definitely,
Yeah,
I
can't get-
definitely don't
see-
think they'd be able to come back at all, to be honest. Because
Yeah,
again,
like, you
when
get
you
that.
eat an edible, it
It
takes
takes-
a lot longer to digest and process and like start working in your stomach. And it also depends on the person and their metabolism. So some people have a much faster metabolism and it'll start kicking in a lot faster. And then there are other people who are like, I feel fine 3 hours later. And then 3.5 hours later, and they're on their butt, and they don't know which way is up. What I'm thinking about is like the turnover time in those types of restaurants is going to be a very long time. Like there's not going to be enough. Like I'm pretty sure you have to keep them there
until they high kick in.
Yeah, until they're
Because then
like,
they're gonna be disgruntled guests.
right.
You think so? But nah, but you
I
gotta
don't know.
that has to be a part of like the splill you give them, right? It's like, look, you start like you start eating this, but you're not gonna be high right away. Like,
Yeah, or you start eating, and once you're done eating, you need to leave like immediately. Like get to your house before
Especially,
you fall.
and like, if
Yes.
you better not be the one driving.
but do you
Yeah.
let them drive? Like, where does the buck stop? Like, where who holds the blunt of the responsibility if the patron walks out of your establishment, alleviate like high on drugs?
Well, there's, usually a certain leeway within that space of time that you obviously should have that warning, and it's going to be put in there within regards because it's something that has to be taken into factor regardless, especially when making something of this
Now let's
degree.
say
And then, selling it to consumers, it's something you want to be real careful with because, if anyone gets their hands on it, it's still food. So, the wrong person eats it.
how do you discard of marijuana products? Because you obviously don't want the animals to eat it out the trash.
Incinerator.
And you burn it. Now we're burning trash, like,
I don't
polluting
know,
the
man.
environment. But you see, look,
No, I'm
but
just thinking about like some of the food that comes back to the dishwashers, and then like them trying to pick off all
Oh,
goodness.
oh.
So then you got dishwashers moving at the speed of snails, just like.
You be like, yo, you eating off the plates again, goddamn. But I guess you gotta treat them like they're jewelry polishers, and just have like somebody dedicated to watching the camera that's watching them.
Yeah.
Like, you understand? And this is the side, like you said,
There's a lot of security.
the side of the
involved.
kitchen.
Yeah.
This is the side of the kitchen that deals with the marijuana and the marijuana infused products. Unless you have an entire establishment that, let's say, 75% of the menu is marijuana based, then you would have to treat it like it's like the mint or something. And everyone would have to go through certain screenings every day and
Yeah.
all of this and make sure you not stuffing stuff down your pocket. But then you would have a lot more freedom once you're there and you start moving around during service.
Yeah,
You understand what I'm saying?
I
But
do. Yeah.
it's real things that people don't think about quite yet. We're nowhere near these stages, but it's inevitable. Is that the right word?
Yeah, it has to be. It definitely has to be
unavoidable.
Unavoidable.
I feel like that's a better word. Unavoidable. Like, whether we want to or not, it's just like a lot of what people say, will come to fruition. It'll happen because, it's something that people want and it's something that's being sought out and it's already clearly, demonstrating the fact that it's succeeding. And because of that, I see it being put forward more so into the future. So, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. So,
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah! Like, this is what we here to conversate about. Like, the chefs of the future. We have 2 generations of chefs just sitting here today on the show. You're in college to be the next, to usher in the next generation of chefs to this industry and share this knowledge and all of this that you're absorbing. And I told you a couple days back, I was like, man, you could be the most beast person in this kitchen just because of what you're exposed to and the amount of knowledge you could absorb in the meantime to take with you to add to your arsenal on to the next spot.
Yeah, no, 100%. And from the few places that I have worked, I've seen a lot. Even working here, it's incredible the growth I've seen within like the year itself. I'm just happy, just to see my expansion, with cooking and just working in different places. It's definitely helped me grow as an individual, and I can appreciate that a lot.
So, as a cook, right, if you had the opportunity to cook a dish with marijuana, right, what would be the ideal dish for you personally?
For me personally,
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna have to go with like a chicken parm.
Chicken parm. Like, or what? Like chicken parm sandwich, chicken parm with pasta? What?
Chicken parm sandwich.
Yeah. Now, what part of it would be in, like, cannibalized?
Chicken.
The chicken. Like chicken marinated?
Yeah.
Mm. And like the breading? Oh,
And the breading also being the both.
oh man. I think I'll go next. So mine would probably be like a chicken curry. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like that would be so phenomenal because you'll be so obsessed with just the flavors going on with the curry that once it's done, you'll be like, oh snap! Like that was that was infused, and then boop, you like, I'm there. What about yourself? What would be like your ideal dish?
So for me, like a go to like snack food for me, if I was high, is like chips, and I do a really phenomenal Dorito chicken. So like I crush Doritos up and I do flour egg breadcrumb or flour egg chips, and I cook them in the oven, or I could also fry them. I could fry them in the can oil. I could fry them, or I can like mix it into the batter. There's so much I can do. I dip it in ranch, so I can make like a separate vinaigrette. Like just the dipping sauce itself would be cannabis infused. There's a lot I can do, and that's something that's like it's always been a snack food for me. Is Dorito chicken. So that would be it for me.
What? I never even heard of that.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna make you something. It is fire.
That's funny.
All right. What about for dessert? That's the real question.
All right.
Dessert.
So, what I wouldn't do infused ice cream. Nah, it's just not happening. So, it would have to be that apple pie.
Damn.
Yeah.
You read my mind.
Yeah, the apple pie.
Oh, or pumpkin pie.
No, you see, pumpkin is trash. It has to be either apple or sweet potato pie.
I honestly gotta go with pumpkin.
Yo, look, team sweet potato. I'm telling you, sweet potato pie is the move. It's the best.
We know apple's the best, but still, we're talking about
Yo, sweet potato pie. I'm telling you.
pumpkin or sweet potato pie. Let's hear it.
Yeah, look, comment. Look, I want all my sweet potato fans to like comment below. For real, I need you to just put a sweet potato emoji or something.
For me, it would either be cheesecake, like any type of cheesecake, or bananas Foster.
Okay. But you know what? I respect the cheesecake.
Yeah.
That banana Foster, you can miss me with that.
So here's what I was thinking with a bananas Foster, because you know how you infuse alcohol with cannabis, like
You could do that.
Yeah. You throw cannabis in a high proof alcohol, and then you strain the weed out, and it's cannabis infused alcohol. So that's another like a huge other legal issue. But what I was thinking of, like bananas foster, like you hit it with the alcohol at the end. So if you use the cannabis
And
infused
the THC
alcohol,
and
yeah,
the THC is in the alcohol.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that
they
that's
sell
where
bottles of it
my head
now.
was at with the bananas foster.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, cannabis infused alcohol. You throw it under your couch for a few days, shake it up every once in a while, and then in like a month, a week, 2 weeks, a month.
Yeah, but they sell it.
Oh,
They
yeah,
actually
do.
sell it. I think like Everclear does it.
Really?
Yeah, they
Oh.
sell. I think so.
What?
Yeah, no, I'm positive that there's a name brand out there that sells legitimate vodka THC infused. Like, yeah.
Yo, y'all blow my mind. I'm over here like, what? Like, but I'm like,
just think about all the alcohol that we put in food now.
but now,
Because that could be a totally
now, but look,
different
this the
additive.
thing: the alcohol we cook with don't get the people drunk
No?
because
So does
it cooks
cook
out.
out? So does
Yeah.
it cook out?
Yeah, because it cooks out the alcohol.
Hmm.
You get the taste and the accents,
Yeah.
but you don't get drunk. You know, even in like the chicken marsala, like
Yeah, chicken
yeah,
masala.
yeah, none of that
vodka
because
sauce.
yeah, none of that. So does
That's something to test.
would it cook out?
I don't know. It probably would.
But how could
Now that
it?
I'm
But
thinking
it
about
does it cook out in when you bake it or anything like that?
I mean, it doesn't cook out when you're making brownies or something like that. So who knows? Or maybe like
That
Well,
wet
the
heat.
flavor.
if you
The
cook
wet
it with
heat,
something
right?
with fat, it'll catch it with the fat as well, so it'll stick to the fat. So no matter what, as long as you're cooking it with something that the THC can attach itself to, which is usually some sort of fat, like when people use it with butter, that's something that it usually sticks to really well. So when you're making like a peniala vodka, you could have that THC with the vodka, and that would still stay with it because of the cream and milk, you know?
So you do like the infused cream,
You could
Yeah.
use cream too.
and then you make like a blush,
Yeah.
a blush sauce. I guess if you're gonna get high, there's ways to find a way.
There are ways to
It's-
find out.
Yeah, there's always ways to find a way to get high. That's mad funny. So, I think the general consensus is that we're for it. Like
Oh, yeah.
we're
Yeah.
for. I feel like I would love to hear like the other perspective though, like a person that wasn't for um, cooking with cannabis and like against it, standing on the other side, or don't want to see it taken to that level where it's like done commercially and made available to like people on a mass scale, like in a Nomad hotel or something like that. Because then, imagine the reach if a place like one of the hotels on Fifth Avenue starts bumping that as a special. They have people from all around the world that flock to it, and it becomes like a trend and blah blah blah. And we all talked about the power of trends here on the show months ago, and how that like the viral trends have like real effects
Yeah.
on like people. When we was talking about like the Starbucks and all of that, and like the Starbucks trends was like abusing the Starbucks workers. So it's always like those far-reaching, really thought-provoking like things that you really got to sit there and ponder and think about for a long time before you be like, you know what, that could be an issue.
Yeah.
Like before you mentioned it, I never thought about how you would have to, designate areas in the kitchen
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and like maybe you just have
Even
like
just
a.
the vetting process with like hiring certain people. Like,
Do you do background checks
do
or
you
no?
do background checks? Do you do drug tests? Like before it even
Do a drug test.
Yeah, before you even like start your job. Like,
But anything but weed,
it's,
right?
You're right. I'm shit. No. It's a lot to do with
Imagine not
trust
getting
when
a
it
job.
comes into-
But look, imagine not getting a job because you test positive for weed. Yeah, I had a job that I was gonna cook with weed all day, but I couldn't get it because I had weed in my system. Now, would
See, so okay, so that's another thing too. Is because now that it's legal, like they shouldn't be able to do that. Well,
what
I
test you
guess
for weed?
not just test you for weed, but like not give you the job because you have weed in your system.
They
But
can.
it's a legal thing. No, they
No,
absolutely
they can
yeah.
because it's all about what job you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, remember you're working around other people.
Yep.
You know, you're not by yourself. You hot pans,
Yep.
knives,
Nice, yeah.
wet floors. You have to be. You have to pay attention. You have to be alert. You have to stay on your toes. It's a safety thing. You know, you can't operate heavy machinery. You know, imagine your heart surgeon coming in stoned. Like, you like, you know, it's like, come on, like, you know, you like, wait, whoa, what? You like, yo, well, you about to fix you all up? Nah, sober up, like, like, so I get it, like, it's not something to be taken lightly, you know, and being a chef and being behind that wall and in that kind of situation, you have to be alert. So there is like to not get the job for testing positive for weed or to be high on the job isn't a funny thing. You know, it's be done on your time off, like doing on your own, you know, thing off premise in a safe place. It shouldn't be done like on the place and
Another reason why it's so important to like be so precise when you're like making big batches of things for those people to cook is because like how often do we taste food in the kitchen? Like
ooh.
like we're not gonna be able to.
So no,
So
but
it's
look,
gotta be perfect every time from the designated kitchen. That way, when we put it in our line, we know that okay, this amount is gonna get them this high.
so
Like,
then
we
it has to
can't
be
be
in
like-
the garnish. It has to be in the garnish.
So good.
It has to be in the garnish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then like the cannabis, the item
Yeah.
has to be the last thing to hit the plate. You know, maybe it's like the
Even if it's like a drizzle. Of
yeah, or you know, something like
Yeah.
that. It just has to be the last thing, so that you could like. So then, but doing it that way, the person who plates the food will be responsible for the cannabis, so it limits the amount of people who deal with that item. It'll be easier to control because you know, look, if you similar to plate, everyone's responsible for their own thing on the line, and then you send it to that one person that puts on, you know, that final touch. Let's say is that gold leaf or,
Right.
you know, whatever the truffle,
Right, yeah.
the truffle infused butter. Woo! They're like you get yeah. You know, and you do it on that kind of time, then you're like, look, it's only this person that deals with that item. And you know the food is going to taste good because the cooks was able to taste it in the process.
Right. Yeah.
Without being like, yo, I'm like 20 plates in.
Right.
Yeah, you like, yo, I'm Gucci. Like, yo, service is feeling good.
We'd have to like switch out people every like 4 hours to make sure that.
Yeah. You be like, all right, sober break. Sober break. Yeah. Be like you force everyone to eat so they can sober. Eat this. Drink coffee.
Employee meals.
Yo, how you just go through mad food? Everybody got the budget. But you see, but again, we we laugh about it, but you know, these are serious things that people have to think about when you talk about such. Look, okay, this can be a completely outlandish topic to a lot of people. You'd be like, what? That's so far off and that's so unbelievable because of everything we've mentioned, right? Because it would be so logistically difficult
Yeah.
to pull off. So I guess the real question is up in the air, and time will tell. But you know, it is for you. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like this will ever come through? Like, comment below. Let us know your thoughts. And Fred, I guess we'll close it with you. You got any like thing you want to add to this?
I don't know, but I definitely see a lot of potential with this, and you know, I'm looking forward to see where it goes. Considering you know, it's something that's even piqued my interest. Seeing where the culinary industry has gone and the hospitality as well, and how it's really taken a whole new, outlook and approach with, marijuana with its legalization in basically almost all 50 states. So that's really crazy to think about.
So, do you ever feel like you would be able to have a class, like on campus, that focuses on like cannibalizing food or having like at least a term?
I mean, I'm not so sure I could see something like that happening in the near future, but, if something I come across piques my interest of the sorts, then I'll definitely let you guys know.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I can definitely see it being a course. At least a one like a 3 credit course, like something that like you have labs for and stuff like that. Because again, like the people who are learning it, the future, chefs of the future
Yes, sir.
are gonna be learning how to do it eventually, and they're gonna need to make sure that everything is just as precise as
Just
you
like
know,
wine
when you're
tasting
doing
class.
gastronomy and stuff like that. Like it's gonna be down to the grams and milligrams and milliliters. So it's definitely gonna be a class. I can definitely see it being a class.
So you would say it'd be like a wine tasting class almost, in
Yeah.
a similar degree, or like a beer history class of the sorts.
I mean, there could definitely be like a history of it for sure, but what I'm saying is like a lab.
Yeah, no, but like one goes with both, so it'd be one hand in hand. One part of it's actual, like you're learning and
Oh, yeah.
understanding the components of what it does,
Yep.
and how different milligrams have the effects that it does to individuals, and separating different strands
yeah.
from one another. And then you have the lab itself where you actually practice and putting into work and trying different recipes. But
They'll break it down to the science of just the metabolism in your body and like, oh wow, yeah, I can see it. It has to be. It's gonna have to be a thing. Near future, guys.
Myself, I feel like it's way too much red tape for it to like make that leap into the education system.
Right now, especially.
Yeah, the most closest thing you're gonna get is maybe like a DARE program. Where it's just like a general overview of drugs and how they're bad and stay away from them. But to do a deep dive on something that the government has such a stigma against, let alone society, to now say now we're gonna have it be a course that we're gonna teach openly. I mean, now you're able to engage in it openly in the streets, and who would have thought that was gonna come, being how many people got harassed
but very much so looking at like the way people have the necessity to just be educated and want that knowledge. I feel like it's going to be put out there for people who want it, especially when they want to try to come into a place where it's so new. And like for some states like New York, who just recently
like a master's program.
Yeah,
I can see it in like a master's program. You know what I'm saying? Because
Okay,
then you're dealing with people who are clearly dedicated and like goal minded. So they come in and are going to approach the whole class and assignments with a sense of maturity.
Yes.
And that's what I think we were all afraid of, right?
Yeah.
That knowledge of that topic would be taken foolishly, like kiddish.
Yeah. It can't be. It has to be that like everyone
Involved from top to
yeah.
bottom. The people who make the curriculum, the writes it, the recipes, everything has to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And then that's how you'll get leg room, or even for it to be conceived. Like you said, like what you had to do. But you did it because it was your area of interest.
Right.
So you took the topic and you, I almost said like perverted it to it like so till it fit your interests and.
Right. Yeah. I mean.
But imagine that being your topic. Like, all right, now we're gonna open up an infused restaurant, and this is how would you go about approaching it? like what recipes and cost it out, and how much weed would you use in each recipe, and you know how much would you cost of that. Like that's something that we didn't even think about. How much would an infused like food cost? How would you price that? What would be a good price for it? How much would you pay for it?
Depends on how much you're like the dosage of whatever it is you're purchasing. It really depends because it's the size of the product, and it also depends on how high the customer wants to get or what the purpose is for whatever reason. Like, because there are some people who may come there for only your desserts, and they have different milligrams for each one. So you want a specific milligram because it'll do you good, and it's a specific strand because it'll help with your stress and your anxiety, or whatever reason it may be. May help slow down your cancer, for whatever the reason may be. You want that variety and ability of choice, so you're gonna have to have different dosages for different things throughout the menu.
Those dishes are gonna have to be like anywhere from $20 and up.
Yeah. So let's say you get a
Like even an appetizer is gonna be at least close to 20.
yeah, like a $19, coconut shrimp.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or you'll get the $36 bowl of curry chicken, or the $40 chicken parm sandwich.
Yeah.
What's your price? So like, I guess the sky's the limit. But you already have your niche market. You see, that's perfect from that standpoint, because you know who you're going to target, you know who your customer base is, and you could just market it to it accordingly.
100%. I completely agree. I just see this as being something that has a lot of potential, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes for the most part.
Oh yeah, time will tell.
Yeah,
But
time.
guys, thank you for stopping past. Josh, is there anything else you want to add to this before we head out of here?
I think that's it. Again, please let us know what you think, and we definitely want to hear your opinions and get back to you on them as well, because I'm sure there's a lot we're not thinking about.
Oh yeah.
So,
And there's a lot we not covering
yeah.
because we're recording this like 1 a.m, straight out of the kitchen. And I appreciate y'all guys for doing that too,
Absolutely.
because this isn't no like light thing to like sit up here and conversate and talk straight out the kitchen after we done banged it out. So really appreciate that again. And we out of here.